Hi guys, welcome to Ask an Olympian. Anything that you've always wanted to know, and I'm going to get started with the questions that were asked originally. So I'll just pull those up, and then if you've got any other questions, put them in the comments, and I'll get them answered for you. So my first question was from Sam: if you could go back to your active days when you were training for the Olympics, what do you mean? I'm active. What is one thing that you would change? I think that I would change probably listening to my body a bit more. And, I was probably in my later career, definitely listen to my body. And because I got septicemia in Barcelona. So, and just going with my gut is probably the biggest thing, going with my gut. Claire asked, what does it feel like to be up on the podium? Well, I got to tell you, when they put that little baby around your neck, it is like I get goosebumps now. It is that realization that you've done it and that you've achieved everything that you wanted and done everything that you could to be up there. And it's an incredible feeling. It's a little bit surreal, but the pride that you feel inside is indescribable and something that those moments that high you may not ever get again. Mark, is promiscuous behavior really that bad in the Olympic Village? Well, if you think about the number of athletes that are in the village and probably the number of athletes that are playing around, probably not, very small percentage. But we all love to have a good time after the event. So we all go out and we have a good time, go to the clubs or bars or whichever country we're in, and have a good time that way. Brent asked, is your mental health more important than winning gold? I think the pressure of being an athlete, the expectations of the world, family, media, friends, coaches, in order for you to be a household name. Is it really all about winning? It should be about what is your purpose in life, your own dreams and goals, not everyone else's expectations of you. These athletes are human, just like everyone else whose dreams really are the parents or the actual athlete's dreams. Was it a choice, the child, when they started out, or was it forced because their family name and the weight of expectations of living up to it as a child living in the spotlight? Whew, what a question, Brent. Okay, so let's break that down a bit. So mental health, obviously super important. And I think it comes up down to the athlete. I think back in our day, we didn't really have a lot of mental health issues, purely because I think we had less exposure to the world with the less social media. We were always told that do not read your own press. So I'm a big advocate of turn off news, don't read newspapers. Because I think that's the best thing that you can do for your mental health. I don't care if you're an Olympian or you're a mum or you're a doctor or whatever you are, turn off the TV when it comes to the news and put on something inspirational. The pressure of the expectations, from an athlete's perspective, we put more pressure on ourselves than anybody else does. Our coaches may be, screaming at us and cheering us on and all those sort of things. But it actually comes down to the athlete because you control your environment, you control what people, what you take on. So, you might have people, saying a lot of things, building you up. And yes, that does add a little bit of pressure to you, but mostly it's what you put on yourself. And we don't really think about going into the Olympics, becoming a household name. It is, we are there because we wanted to be there. And I think your purpose in life really comes later. I think as an athlete, most of the athletes are young, they're under 25, and they've sort of really are just pursuing that dream of when they were a little kid, watching the Olympics saying, I want to be there one day, because that was me. I saw John Sieben win the Olympic gold medal, and I turned to my mum and I said, I want to go the next Olympics. So it's really, you might have some athletes that have got pressure from their family, and push them, but they're not normally the athletes that go to the Olympics. They're normally the athletes that are burnt out by 14, and they've had a gutful. So I hope that answers that question. Dion asked a comparison of training techniques from decades past to now. So for a very long time, I held the Commonwealth record for 21 years. And I believe that the reason I did that was because we were swimming 80 to 100 kilometres a week back then. And a lot of the athletes really didn't want to do that kind of work. And also, a lot of the coaches didn't want to stand on the pool deck for 3 hours a session and coach someone that's doing an 8 or 1500. It really was a specialized program and a specialized coach that would do that. So, I think that combination was a big thing. And you'll find that, like Ariana Titmus, she came through from Tassie. Peter Gartrell was coaching her down there. He's a tough guy. He loves the mileage. So that's where she got great background before she came up. Dean Boxall, he's really loves that hard work as well. So, the hard work has really made those athletes become a lot better than what they are. Also, I was talking to a friend of mine who's a coach, Janelle Pallister now. She was Janelle Elford, and my biggest rival in swimming. And I asked her that question, and she said the sports science that's behind it now. Each athlete will get a printout of how many meters per second that they were swimming for each lane rope cork, right? I'm not sure what you would call it, but each panel of the lane rope. How many meters per second per each panel, right? So we never had that. I had to do 40 strokes a lap. I knew I was going to on pace if I could hold 40 strokes a lap. Also, there's a lot more food, not more education about food. We had no education about food. We just, we would eat whatever we wanted to eat, and obviously there were times where our coach said, don't eat chocolate, don't eat rubbish, etc. But that was kind of common sense. Whereas now, they can do analysis of blood and all that kind of stuff and see exactly what's going to make the athlete perform better. And there's been a lot more science with training techniques and things like that. So it's a big difference. And that's why you're seeing, particularly in the 8 and 1500, times now that they're swimming way faster than what we were doing back in the 80s and early 90s. Debbie asked, as a parent of a swimmer who walked away from the sport, what makes you keep going? And can you ever get back to where you were? Well, Deb, it depends on the individual athlete. What is their desire? If they don't have a desire to go to the Olympics, then, they're not going to be getting up at 4:25 in the morning and diving in a cold pool at 5 o'clock. It really comes down to that athlete's real passion to want to go to the Olympic Games or the Commonwealth Games or whatever it is, So we really have to look at our athletes and our children and saying, what do you really want to do in life? What is it that you really want to excel at, and then help steer them into that. We can't be disappointed for them if they give up. We can be disappointed, but it's got to be their choice, because you've got to think about, if they're going to be committing 20 or 30 hours a week to training, then they've got to be determined and they've got to really want to love to do it, right? So hope that helps. Jody asked, do you have the same motivation now to achieve, and how do you find the inspiration? Well, I did a little ebook about that a little while ago, Jode, and I did, tapping into an Olympian's mindset on how to self-motivate. So if you want a copy of that, let me know. I don't think I have the same motivation now as what I did when I was younger. I think as we get older, that passion really drops back a bit. And I think that even though I'm passionate about what I do, I don't get up at 4:30 in the morning to do it. I don't, probably, I'll be honest, I probably don't commit that time to it, that what I probably should. But it's just about what really fuels you, and it's finding, what that is, and that's what's going to motivate you from internally. Don't look externally. We can go to motivational speakers and get inspired for a couple of days, but when we're turning within and inspiring ourselves within, that's when we can motivate ourselves for a lifetime. Rochelle asked, am I loving this Olympic energy? Well, I'm loving the athlete's energy. I'm loving that, that competitive nature. I've done lots of crying. I've done lots of goose bumping, things like that. So I have enjoyed the Olympics immensely, and that's why I do my live updates at 7 p.m. each night. So those who are around the world and can't tune into the Australian network, then, I'm hoping that they're getting enjoyment from that. Kath asked, after you finish swimming, do you lash out of your normal routine like eat junk food, alcohol, partying? Absolutely. Absolutely, mate. Heck, you've seen me at my best. But it's releasing that energy, that pent up energy as an athlete. We give up a lot. I didn't go to nightclubs or parties, or you can ask any of my year 12 friends. Every time they were going to a party, it got to the point where they even stopped asking me because they knew that my answer was no. And I remember turning up to the Gecko Club, which was an under 18s club at I think QUT or QUT, I think, in the city, and their faces were gobsmacked, and they're like, "What are you doing here?" And so we give up a lot of that sort of socializing and fam and friends socializing to get to the Olympics, so that when our event is over, you've got all that pent up energy, the that everything you've withheld, and you want to lash out a little bit. So yeah, we do have a good time, go out and have a few drinks and, party and eat lots of ice cream after the Olympics, because they normally have really good ice cream in the Olympic Village. Mark G said, who is your favourite Olympian? And if you didn't swim freestyle, what stroke would you have swum? If you weren't a swimmer, what sport would you like to have competed at the Olympics? Well, Mark, probably my favourite Olympian would probably have to be John Seaman, because he was the Olympian that it really inspired me to want to go to the Olympics and win a medal. I feel the emotion. Just saying that. If I hadn't been a freestyle swimmer, I actually started off as a backstroker. And my first Commonwealth Games team, when we went down to the trials, I had entered the 100 back, the 200 back, and Laurie made me nominate in the 1500 freestyle as backup, right? And because the 200 back was the same night as the 800 free. And so Laurie thought that if I didn't make the team in the backstroke, then we had a backup plan for the freestyle. So in the 100 back, I got third, which meant I possibly would have been, definitely probably would have been picked for the team. 200 back, I got fourth, which meant, the Commonwealth Games, they take top three if you're under the qualifying time. So I got fourth, so that was sort of like, oh, maybe not. So the last day of the competition was the women's 1500 freestyle. So we went to the selectors and asked them, if I swim faster than the girl who won the 800 free, will they consider me for selection? And they said yes. So the first 800 free, the first 800 of that 1500, I absolutely went as hard as I could. I turned at the 800 metre mark, and I could, because the old Adelaide pool had the scoreboard on the beside the pool, so I could come up. I took my first breath, and I could see I'd swum 840, which was faster than the girl who had won the 800 free. And so I knew I'd made the team. So that next 100, I was fist pumping Laurie and waving to my mum and dad on the other side. And, that was, for me, that was it. Like I had made the team. I swam on the next 700 metres. Laurie said, keep going. Had to go hard. So when we got to Karlsruhe for the training camp, before the Commonwealth Games, they do a finalised list of who is in what event. And they pulled me out of the 100 back, and they said, oh, you're only swimming the 800 free. And so at Commonwealth Games, I only swam the 800 free, and I never competed in backstroke again. So I just became a distance freestyler. But my favourite stroke is backstroke. And if I wasn't a swimmer, when I was 10, I wanted to be a jockey. When I was a kid, from when I was little, 6-year-old, I wanted to be a jockey. No one told me I could have been an equestrian Olympian. right? So, having a horse is expensive, and we were a modest family, grew up at Rochdale. So I had to choose. Actually, I really didn't get a choice. I was a swimmer. I couldn't be an equestrian rider. Megan, what is my biggest regret? Biggest regret was not going with my gut and listening to my body in 92 when I had an infected wisdom tooth. And the dentist said to me, if we take it out, we'll have to have 2 weeks out of the water. And I should have taken that 2 weeks out of water because I could have just done swim bench or something like that, and I could have caught up the times because I ended up having septicemia over the next 3 months, and it poisoned my system. So that was probably my biggest regret. Sue, why do swimmers wear two caps? So they really wear two caps. Most of them you'll see they'll put the cap on, then the goggles, and then the second cap. And it's just to hold their goggles on if they haven't got, if they've always, and ever had a experience where the goggles have fallen off. And even in these Olympics, we saw a girl whose goggles fell down to here, which really restricted her in the mixed medley relay team. So yeah, that's why they wear two caps. Brent, what is your purpose after your career is done? Do you lose who you are, your identity, because the fame and accolades are no longer there? Like some of the boys that have competed in our sport, that goes for all athletes and sporting identities. Absolutely. With a lot of athletes, so when I stopped swimming, there was no big fanfare, there was no big announcement, not like it is today. It was just you fall off being written about in the newspaper, you don't turn up to training anymore. You resign from your club. And it's very difficult when you've been in a swimming and training environment. You're surrounded by 30 to 40 people, and they're like your family, and then you wake up the next morning when you're home in your own bed and it's you and your close family. That's a big loss, and that's difficult to get over. So it's why some people go off the rails, and they're looking for that next high. They're looking for the to replicate that. And some people don't cope. And it's the second biggest disgrace of our country. Our biggest disgrace is our war veterans who come back and they are not supported. And we've all seen the results of what happens with that. Whew! Wasn't expecting this. Julie Kay, who is an Olympian, Olympic diver. What does Paddy Mills wear under his gold boomer outfit? Looks like a singlet. Is it for more technical reasons? Good question, Jules. So I reached out to Paddy's dad, who I know is on my friends on Facebook, and I asked him, and he said it's just a singlet because it's hot over there, and it was just to try and keep him cooler and more comfortable because it's very hot. It was 37 degrees there today, so that's why. Marika, she asked, Village Sex, what really happens to all those condoms? So what happens is the Australian team supplies condoms to the athletes, and every team does. At the games when she went, a lot of the condoms got souvenired to take home for friends and family who were curious. Yes, that did happen. A lot of the condoms were used in Barcelona. I remember, I think that was the first year that they really introduced it, that I remember. I was 18 at the first Olympics, and I'm not sure I was looking for that. But in 92, we used them as water bombs, and we would throw them out the windows once we finished the swimming. So that's what happened to a lot of them. Hugh and Anne in the USA, how has your drive as an Olympian continued to support your passions? How have you stayed focused? So I think my passions has always been health. After my 20s, in my 20s, I had three major health issues. I had septicemia, I had chlorine poisoning, and I had stage 2 melanoma. And it really made me think that, that was kind of the prime of my life and the fittest that I'd ever been. And I get these health issues. What am I in for the rest of my life? So it always made me think about how I can keep my body healthy. And I always looked for what the new technology was or what the new supplement on the market was and what it did and how it affected my body. So, and I guess that's where it's led me to now with the redox education, helping people, find ways to be able to get their body into the best position so they can build their immune system and be able to just fight off viruses and things like that and illnesses themselves with their own body. Our body is meant to heal. So you just got to give it the right tools, right? So I haven't had the flu since '96, so it's worked for me. So Cassandra Sedgman, one of the best uh, lifesavers I know of, and I used to be super scared to race her. As you know, you don't need to win a gold medal to be an inspiration. The most inspirational swim for her was in the pool with Emily Seebohm's bronze in the 200 back. Me too. She has achieved so much in her career, but I think her swim today was my favourite. It allowed fans to see there is so much more to winning, and her interview was amazing and inspiring. Definitely my thoughts were the same, Cass. She made me cry, I couldn't understand a word she was saying, but all I got was pride, proud, happy, grateful, wonderful words. So, absolutely, it's not always about the gold. And I know that there are people out there that talk about the gold and stuff the silver and what have you. But, I got to tell you, how many years are we down the track? 33 years down the track from when I won this baby. And it's, one of the proudest moments of my life. And it's something that I really value. And I know that I've inspired a lot of people that I've spoken to with my corporate speaking and to schools and corporates and executives. And, this is something that they haven't got. And, for me, that really inspires me. And, it's the person. I believe it's the person you become. And I've often said I'm not sure I would have been the same person as I am today had I won the gold medal. I can further that later. Jack, what do you do with your medals? Where do you keep them? Oh, well, Jack, I'm wearing them around my neck every day. No, actually, when I built my home, I had a safe built in and they're kept in the safe. So, I can access them. I used to keep them in the bank and then, if I had a speaking gig, I'd have to go and get them out of the bank and that. But once I built my new home, I built it in so that I could, access it every day. Or if people came over and they wanted to see them. Do you still have your swimmers? Yes, I do. I still have my swimmers. I still have my caps. I still have my goggles. A lot of them are very perished. But it's been, I absolutely have kept them. So they're all the questions that were written. Let me go back and have a look and see who's there. Hey, Kath, good to see that you joined us. Sam, hi, Sam. Thanks for joining us. Kath, I wish I had have known you then. I would have given you lots of love, recognition, and hugs. Oh, well, you're a beautiful girl. You give me that now anyway. So, if you have any further questions, then you can put them in the comments below and I will answer them in the thread. But I hope that this has been enjoyable and I hope you guys have had an amazing day and I hope you enjoyed the Olympics. Bye.